Stephen Sund joins us on the phone right now. He's also the author of Courage Under Fire. Sir, good to have you with us.
Vince, it's good to be on, and it's great to have you back.
Thank you very much, sir. So what do you make of Nancy Pelosi now saying that it's my responsibility? I should have called the National Guard in.
I wish you would have thought of that before January 7th when she called for my resignation. I think she used a key word there, ridiculous. It is ridiculous. It's ridiculous that, while we're under attack, I have to wait 71 minutes to get approval to bring in the National Guard. And it's ridiculous that it's denied the National Guard twice on January 3rd. They're the ones that passed the law that restricted me. I'm the only chief of police in the United States of America that has a law that requires me to go and get Capitol Police Board approval and leadership, congressional leadership approval, to bring in any executive agencies to help the men and women in my department, and I was denied.
And you put these requests to the respective sergeant-at-arms of both the House and the Senate. In the House, that man reports to Nancy Pelosi, right?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
And you were denied.
That is correct. Denied multiple times. Went again twice on Sunday, January 3rd. January 3rd was the inaugural day of the 117th Congress, so we were all working. I went over in person to ask, and the House Sergeant-at-Arms said he didn't like the optics of the National Guard on Capitol Hill and wouldn't approve my request. And then on January 3rd at 12:58, I made my first request to him for National Guard. Now we're under attack. My fence line on the west front has now been breached. And he says he's going to run it up the chain. That's his chain of command, which goes right up to the Speaker of the House, Speaker Pelosi. Mm-hmm. And multiple calls I made to him while I was also making multiple calls to my law enforcement partners requesting any assistance I could get. And it took 71 minutes to get that approval.
The House Sergeant-at-Arms at the time was Paul Irving. What, in your perspective, was his relationship to Nancy Pelosi? Was he effectively her spokesman?
Oh, absolutely. He didn't make a decision without input from her. He was extremely loyal. He turned to her for all sorts of decisions. And I think he was concerned when I first approached him on the 3rd. When I look back on it, his concern for optics was definitely a concern for her. During the 2020 protests, she had referred to National Guard and federal, executive branch agencies on the streets of America as stormtroopers. And I think he was worried about that. And then why the reluctance on January 6th, I have no idea. I called him multiple times asking, where are we on the request? He said, any minute, I'm running it up the chain. Any minute, I'll be right back to you. Repeatedly. I called 11 times to get updates, and it took 71 minutes.
Well, the effect of that, of course, was to elongate the disorder, and that event has been used ever since as a predicate to restrict American liberty and attack the president's political opponents. So if you're being cynical about the events of that day, it's all been in the aftermath designed to serve Nancy Pelosi's agenda.
Well, it doesn't take much, even somebody to become cynical when you think about it. I mean, the first window of the Capitol wasn't broken for 81 minutes. And of 71 of those minutes, I was denied. Imagine if we had gotten those resources. And people don't realize the National Guard, there was 180 National Guard troops almost within eyesight of the Capitol. They were the next largest cadre of people besides the D.C. police. Why I had actually prearranged at 10:59 in the morning. I actually called their executive assistant chief, Jeff Carroll, and requested assistance, and he put 7 platoons on Constitution Avenue. The National Guard was the next largest cadre, and they wouldn't send them to me.
So let me just to kind of play out the hypothetical. If things had gone as you had hoped, which is to get the National Guard in there for support and to establish some order ahead of time, do you believe that the events of January 6th would have ever taken place the way we saw them play out?
So there's a couple things there. One, I think we've now looked at 5 congressional reports that all talk about what an intelligence debacle this was, both with how it was handled, at the federal level, but also with how it was handled within my own agency.
Yeah.
2, if I had gone and when I requested the National Guard on January 3rd, all I wanted was unarmed National Guardsmen to help supplement my officers on the perimeter. I wasn't expecting big battles. I wasn't expecting any issues because that wasn't the intelligence I was getting. I just wanted more people to supplement because I had fence lines that was going to have very few people on it because of all the events we had going on inside the Capitol.
Right.
And I couldn't even get from the National Guard. I do believe that if we had if we had the intelligence, I would have had mutual aid. I would have had a 8-foot anti-scale fence. But I do believe if I would have had the National Guard there, it would have definitely been far less, or not even this. We wouldn't even be here right now because the fence line would have been protected.
And the Biden administration wouldn't spend the ensuing years arresting thousands upon thousands of people and prosecuting them. It's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing what has happened. I want to move to another topic. It's with you because I know you've got some firsthand experience dealing with the tragic of events now in 2017, a shooting at the Alexandria baseball field. That's where Republican lawmakers were practicing ahead of the Congressional Baseball game that year. And a Bernie Sanders campaign volunteer opened fire on them. The only thing in the end that really ended up saving their lives was two Capitol Police officers were there protecting Steve Scalise at the time, who was, of course, very grievously injured in that attack. And they were able to stop the shooter. You had kind of a unique perspective that day. Tell us, Chief Sund, what you saw.
So at the time, I was their assistant chief in charge of operations, and I'd received a call in the morning. I think that happened right around 7:10 in the morning, and it was only a 10-minute battle exchange, and over 100 rounds were fired by both, all parties involved. But nonetheless, I get a call. I'm told that they have a shooting. We have some injured members of Congress. Some are going to be taken to Washington Hospital Center. So Matt Verderosa, who's the chief, he went down to Alexandria, down to the Eugene Simpson Park. I went up to Washington Hospital Center. I'd been with D.C. Police for 25 years. I've been there many times. I know it. And I know we're going to have to set up a security detail. I get up there right after Eagle One, which is the United States United States Park Police helicopter landed and delivered one of the most critical injured to the hospital center. I walked in and recognized the medic, and I still get chills from this. The medic makes a beeline over to me and says, "Chief, you need to go in and probably say a couple of quick words to your officers your officer that's in there, because it looks bad, and I don't think he's going to make it." I go walking in to try and comfort the officer as best I could, and it was Steve Scalise. It wasn't one of my officers. That's how bad it was, and it's so good that he is able to make it through, and only the bad guy suffered that day. When I say suffered, is deceased.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's absolutely incredible, and was there for most of the evening, and got a call from Secret Service right around probably about 8:50, and advised that President Trump was coming up there. Never knew it was his birthday. He never mentioned it to anybody that it was his birthday. And him and Melania Trump came up and spent approximately 2 hours. They talked to Crystal Griner, who was one of my agents, who was shot through the leg by the assailant, as well as visiting with the staff that was treating Scalise and others, and never mentioned it to anybody. That is his birthday.
Never mentioned. Well, yeah, and so he was there. How was he in that kind of intimate but trying moment?
Very, very supportive. I still remember when he came out. He spent time talking, like I said, to the nurses, and every time, because we walked. I first met him when he arrived at the arrival area. Gave him a briefing as we walked through the basement of the hospital up to the surgery areas. And every nurse's station we walked by, he stopped to tell them thank you. I thought that was impressive, knowing just how hard they work. And he listened attentively. He spent, I think, probably a little over 30 minutes with Crystal Griner and her family in her room, and then came out and corralled a bunch of officers, including myself, for a quick photo before moving on. But he truly cared about the officers and what everybody had been through.
It's interesting that you're talking about both of these subjects. First of all, thank you for this, Chief Sund. But as I think about those events, I think most people probably, if I were to ask what date did that baseball shooting occur, I don't think most people would be able to answer the question because it's not the kind of thing that's been hammered away by the media routinely since June 14th of 2017. Yet January 6th of 2021 is mentioned, I think, probably on a daily basis by the corporate press since the events of that day. In the case of the attack by James Hodgkinson, the shooter that we're talking about, he had a list of Republican lawmakers in his pocket. He set out to attack Republican lawmakers. He opened fire on them and severely wounded Steve Scalise, among others. What does it tell you that only January 6th lives on in the mind of the American people and certainly the American news media, and not that attack on those Republican lawmakers?
Well, some of that may go hand in hand kind of with the direction we're going in with this is not only did he shoot and injure them, he first asked to see who was playing. And then when he's told it was the Republicans, then he went to his car and got his gun and started shooting. And when the investigation was done, the FBI said it was a random act. However, Brian Porter, who's the attorney for the Commonwealth of Alexandria, he hit the nail on the head. 6 months later, he put out a report saying it was a terrorist attack. I guess it's what the media focuses on right now. I do. I see that. You turn on the TV, and I rarely go through a day without seeing something about January 6th. But haven't seen anything about the shooting. I think there was a couple of times it was talked about last week as we came up on the baseball. We had the Congressional Baseball game just a couple of days ago, and I think I heard it maybe once or twice, but nothing like you're hearing about January 6th.
Right, but January 6th in particular is used as a predicate for, there's all of this extremism all across the country, and we need to clamp down on it, we need to shut down all of this. And meanwhile, you get guys who are Bernie Sanders' campaign volunteer opens fire on a Republican congressman. Again, he has a list of Republican lawmakers in his pocket as he's shooting upon them. Asks specifically, as you mentioned, what political affiliation they had. Once he finds out they're Republicans, shoots them. We don't get anything. We don't get any sort of after action from the relevant agencies saying that they're going to dig deeper into these types of threats against lawmakers.
It does see, like what you're talking about. It does seem like it's being treated completely different than January 6th.
That's for sure. All right. Well, thank you for your perspective on both. Again, former United States Capitol Police Chief Stephen Son, and his book is Courage Under Fire. Chief Son, good to talk to you today, sir. Thank you very much.